May you be made strong with all the strength that comes from his glorious power. And may you be prepared to endure everything with patience while joyfully giving thanks to the Father. From our reading out of Colossians this morning. And y'all, I've never heard the Bible tell me how to run the gauntlet of Thanksgiving family gatherings more clearly than that. Lord knows we are all going to need some strength and some endurance and some patience and some gratitude this week. Isn't that how it always is? If you have ever sweated your way through an entire day in the kitchen cooking up a veritable feast just to watch your child eat a roll with some butter and say the rest of the food is yucky, you know. If you have ever had to be reminded that Uncle Bobby and Aunt Sally can't sit next to each other anymore because the meal will erupt in shouting over who broke the 8-track player in 1971, you know. Strength, endurance, patience, gratitude. But my friends, Thanksgiving family gatherings are not, in fact, the only reason that God would bestow upon us such gifts and graces. Indeed, if we read only a little further into that passage from Colossians this morning, it might become clearer. May you be made strong with all the strength that comes from his glorious power, and may you be prepared to endure everything with patience, while joyfully giving thanks to the Father who has enabled you to share in the inheritance of the saints in the light. He has rescued us from the power of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. We have been rescued from the power of darkness and have been transferred into the kingdom of Jesus Christ, redeemed and forgiven. It is for that reason that we can be strong, enduringly patient, and grateful. Things around here can get kind of nutty sometimes. We heard last week in the gospel about the portents and signs of war and famine and destruction. And we can look out our own front doors or our windows and see those things without trying very hard in our own lives. Sinfulness rages in the world and in our hearts. These are not easy times. I'm not sure if there are ever really easy times. It can be so simple to look around and get swallowed up by the threats and factions of this place and this time. And it can be so easy to let fear or anger rule our thoughts and temperaments, to be quick to react, quick to dominate or to dismiss, quick to hide away. But today, on the very last Sunday of the church year, on the day we celebrate that Christ is King and Lord of all things, of all places and times, today we are reminded that we are citizens of a different kingdom, inheritors of the riches of grace, companions and counterparts to the saints in light. We belong to a different kingdom, one where all people are redeemed, forgiven, reconciled. A kingdom where there is no sighing or pain, no war, no famine, no fear, no weariness. A kingdom where we all encounter and become the everlasting peace and love of God. And that kingdom is not far off. It is not some distant shore or far country, as C.S. Lewis would say. It is not solely some sort of reward after a long suffering life. Jesus Christ tells us it is very near and drawing nearer by the day. It is as close as our breath, existing all around us, breaking in more and more as more people labor toward its truth. We do not have to wait to know that kingdom. We do not have to wait to behave as if we are there. God has already rescued us from the darkness and transferred us into that kingdom, Colossians says this morning. It is already ours for the living in and the living out. We just need to believe it. And once we believe it, we need to act like we believe it. And how do we do that? When Uncle Bobby and Aunt Sally start yelling this week, when someone forgets to turn the oven on and a turkey sits in it for hours uncooked, when the kids tell you that your grandmother's sweet potato recipe that's been handed down for generations is gross, when the dog eats the entire pie set aside for later. These are all true stories, by the way. When the Longhorns beat the Aggies in your divided household, or when the Cowboys lose again. We do not give in to the despair or frustration that rises in our hearts and in our throats. We lean on God's strength. We endure with patience. And we find things to give thanks to God for. Because we know, we believe, God has already given us everything worth anything. Redemption and forgiveness, a rescue from the darkness, a home and a family where peace and love flourish, and a kingdom that bows only to the King and Lord of all things, Jesus Christ. So may you be made strong with all the strength that comes from his glorious power. And may you be prepared to endure everything with patience while joyfully giving thanks to the Father. Amen.